And before, I was thinking Chiron might call in and be like, no, the plot! We can't go to Las Vegas again!
New York City, what is good? There's so many people here. This is wild. Thank you so much for coming out to the first ever live show of the newest Olympian. This is very fun. I'm very happy to be here. We have quite a lot to discuss. We are going to be covering chapter 13 of a little book called Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. It'll be a very, very fun time. But I'm not going to be doing it alone. I can never do it alone. I am joined by someone who's been on the show a lot, easily has risen to the status of fan favorite guest. Please, everyone, welcome to the stage, Stephen Parra. I didn't get a chance.
I don't know. Sorry, let me get rid of it. There are a lot of you. Hello.
What's very fun is that not only we may have sold all 160 seats here, which is very cool, out. There's also over 500 people watching via live stream. So hello to the live stream folks. Whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching it after, and shout out to all of the people listening to this now on the podcast after the fact. Thank you for listening to that too. But also shout out to the people who were very concerned. Some people reached out on social media or email and they were like, wait, if you're covering chapter 13 at the live show, do I have to buy a live stream ticket? What if I don't live in New York City? What if I can't attend? Like, I was just gonna skip chapter 13. Be like, suck it, nerds, pay me $10 to listen to this chapter. Otherwise, 12, 14A, here we go. So no, thankfully we are having it recorded by the sound team here, so it's all good. Now, Stephen, we have definitely already asked you the whole how'd you find the books situation. Have we asked you the godly parent thing, or was that established after? Okay, so take the floor real quick. Do you know what your godly parent is? Have you done one of the quizzes?
Of course. I know who my godly parent is.
Who's that godly parent?
So I took the Rick quiz, and then I went and found a much more robust one. Mm-hmm. Same God each time, though. I am a child of Apollo.
Oh, a lot of haiku fans in the crowd tonight.
Which, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. His dad, he's father of Asclepius, god of medicine.
Don't remind me. My favorite thing that happens now in the inbox, and by favorite, I mean least favorite, is when people are like, hey, I just listened to episode 20. Here's a 12-page essay about why you messed up the rod of Asclepius versus the caduceus. And I always reply, I look forward to you listening to episode 29. Thank you, Stephen, for saving me. But no, I mean, also, you did a cappella. You're a very talented singer. Shout out to all the people who still message me saying, when Stephen sung Hey Soul Sister in the episode, it was so good.
I sang Beautiful Soul by Jesse McCartney.
Oh, sorry. I had Hey Soul Sister in my brain because you were talking about Harry Styles backstage. And there was a video of him on like whatever his first reality show. And he was singing that. And it wasn't good. But he's good now, so that's okay. Growth. My first episode of my podcasts were all bad too, so we all grow. Me and Harry Styles, the same. So let's get into chapter 13, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, chapter 13 is called We Visit the Junkyard of the Gods. My guess here, they visit the Junkyard of the Gods. Pretty straightforward. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate the round of applause.
A+ work, Schubert.
You know, just glad that I could finally get one right. When we last left our heroes, they had just decided to ride a giant boar, and they are riding that boar, and what does Percy do at the top of this chapter? Complain about it. Percy Jackson, a teenager, says that it hurts his back end riding the boar. I'm sorry, Percy. Now that I'm 30, I get to complain about things like this. You don't get to complain about things like this. How old is he at this point? 16? No, not
No,
16. That's
not
the
even
big one.
close.
14,
No,
right?
he is 14.
14.
Yes.
You're 14. I don't think I ever complained about anything in my musculoskeletal system unless it was like legitimately broken. Even when I needed stitches and like, I won't describe it because gross. I was like, I'll be okay. I'm 14. I'll bounce back. Oh, the boar hurts my butt. All right, Percy. Now, he says that it feels like riding a giant steel brush over gravel, which we all know what that feels like.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for this A+ analogy. But what I do appreciate is that narrator Percy says that the boar gallops and then immediately in parentheses asks, do boars gallop? Which I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not an animal expert.
That's not what my doctorate's in at all. I'm sorry.
So what they have now entered after riding this boar is they are in desert territory, which is much worse than dessert territory. And it's especially bad because if you remember the prophecy, someone's going to get lost. So that's not ideal. So they are in a desert. The boar stops to eat and drink. And Grover says that it is as far as he will go because it has to for the plot. But also, yeah, it's a book. Sure. We can't just have them riding the boar the whole time. So they're in a town in Arizona called Gila Claw, Arizona. Anyone out there from Gila Claw? Anyone watching the stream from Gila Claw?
Oh, cool.
Is Gila Claw a real place? Or is it Gila Claw? I don't know. It's a real place. It is the name of a ghost town. Oh, nope. That's from Riordan Wiki. But it is a county in Arizona, according to ghosttowns.com. So I'll take it. Maybe that's the source that Rick used. Anyway, they are in this part of Arizona. Percy describes it as basically being a ghost town, but it does feature a store that looks like it hasn't been open since before Zoe Nightshade was born. I like him making fun of her for being an old fart. He sees a set of hills, but it wasn't a set of hills. It was a set of hills lobster. No, it is actually a junkyard. And I thought, yes, the title. We're like 2 paragraphs in and we've already hit the title. I think that's a world record for Percy Jackson and the Olympians. So I'm imagining, and I don't know if you've watched this movie. Are you also a traumatized 30-year-old? Have you watched The Brave Little Toaster?
Of course.
Okay.
I think I have to leave.
It's a wild Disney program that's out there that I watched a lot on VHS, and it kind of explains why I was a bit hesitant towards installing a window unit air conditioning in New York. Great film. Wild that it was targeted towards children. I think it's the scariest movie of all time.
Yeah.
But there's a big junkyard scene with a great song, but it's also traumatizing.
Yeah.
But it's wild stuff. But I'm imagining this locale for the Junkyard of the Gods. Now, Grover does a tracking spell with the acorns, and we actually get to see what the tracking spell looks like, which I think is really cool. He plays a reed pipe song, and then he takes out 5 acorns that are markers for all the members of the team, and then Percy asks which is him, because he's the main character. And then Zoe, with a good zinger, says, "You're the little deformed one."
Hey, she's had a lot of time to hone her craft.
You're right. That's a really good point. I was thinking of the I didn't think people from that olden time were funny, but you're right. She's got years and years and years of practice of quips and stuff. So
Oh, for sure.
that makes sense. And also, if you do want proof that people were funny way back in time, read Pride and Prejudice. It's so good. It's such a good book. I can't believe that they made funny people back then. Now, Grover notes that there is a cluster, and I had a question for you about just reading comprehension-wise. Did, the sand form a cluster, after he put the acorns down? I was just confused when Grover pointed out a cluster that they had to avoid.
I think he just threw acorns, and there were 5 that he's like, that's us, and then there were other acorns, and it's like, that's bad.
Oh, so there's more than just the 5,
Yeah.
but 5 of them clump up and that. Oh, okay. Oh. How many acorns is Grover carrying?
More than 5.
And that's what your doctorate is in. Math? No, it's not in math. That's another stuff. Okay, now, cluster is there that they need to be wary of, but Grover thinks that this cluster is not a monster because he doesn't smell anything. So they decide that they have to go through the junkyard, but they are not going to do it right now because it's still nighttime, so they're going to make camp, and then they will tackle this tomorrow morning.
Now, Zoe and Bianca are able to pull out 5 sleeping bags and foam mattresses from their bags, and Percy is convinced that their bags have some sort of like bag of holding magic in it because there's no way that it could fit all of that stuff. Seems legit to me. Magic book, sure, fine.
Yeah.
Not going to complain. He also notes that this is what happens for their bow and arrows, though, because whenever they need them, they show up. But if they don't, they just kind of disappear. And now it's just confirmed that the hunters are just video game characters. Like when you need the weapon, it's here, and then you just kind of like put it away like this, which I play a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn. It's very funny because you get a big like bow and arrow situation. But it is funny when you like switch to something else, like if you have the equivalent of like a grenade, and you've got like the big bow and arrow, and then it's like grenade, and you don't have a backpack or anything at all. But like, yeah, whatever. They're just video game characters. I imagine that they walk like in perfect.
They don't aim. Yeah.
Percy. So the stars are out. Bianca is amazed. Have you ever been in the middle of nowhere where you can see stars out and stuff?
Yeah.
Where was it? Was it Texas National Park? I mean, on Steven's face, you can just see him like clearly remembering wherever he was.
Yeah, no. When I was getting my master's in public health, we had to do like a internship, and so I went out to rural Appalachia to work on like diabetes stuff out there. But the nice thing when you're way far out there, there's no light pollution.
Yeah.
So you can see everything, and we're up in the mountains. It was just gorgeous.
That's very cool. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be able to see it in national parks and some other trips that I've done with my family. Gorgeous. Can't recommend enough just going out to the middle of nowhere and looking at the stars. A+ stuff. Zoe says that it was way better in the past before all of the light pollution. Bianca is amazed. Percy is amazed. And when Zoe says that it was better in the past, Percy says, "You talk like you're not a human." And then she says, "Oh, I just care for the wild. Do thee?" And then Thalia, who can never let this go ever, has to call her out saying that we don't say thee anymore. And then Zoe gets frustrated by the rules of English changing too often, which like, maybe my beef isn't with the rules of English changing too much, but the rules of English are whack.
Yeah.
I do not envy anyone who doesn't speak English as a first language. And anyone who learns it, it is so impressive. Especially, I'll get a lot of these messages from international listeners, maybe some of the ones watching on the stream. And it's always very nice where people write these incredible, really nice emails in perfect English. And then at the end be like, "Oh, I'm from whatever country and English isn't my first language. Sorry if my English is bad." It's like, your English is far better than mine. It's so impressive. So impressive. So impressive. So Grover then thinks, if Pan were here, he would set things straight. And he wonders, trying to think back about what sparked Pan to show up previously. He thinks maybe it was because he drank coffee. And narrator Percy immediately is like, it wasn't the coffee.
It's like, yeah, then Pan would be in every Starbucks in America.
God. So Percy thinks this, but he decides not to say it because he can't bring himself to crush Grover's spirits about this. So Percy instead just kind of asks Grover, "Do you really think it was Pan?" And Grover says yes, even though he doesn't really know why Pan would want to help them out, but he's absolutely convinced that it was Pan. And he says, "After this quest, I'm going to go back to New Mexico and drink a lot of coffee." Have a good time, Grover.
There are worse ways to spend a summer, I think.
Yeah, no. Drink some coffee, do some hikes, for sure. So Thalia asks Bianca how she was able to destroy the zombie. And I'm very excited because I'm very enticed to see what's going on here. Very interesting situation with her using the knife to make the zombie blow up. And at this point in time, I was thinking it's got to do with their parents. And I'm thinking that their parents either Ares, because God of War, fighting, that kind of stuff. Or Hades, because death, zombies, undead, that sort of thing. That's where I'm at the point in time I was reading this. Percy wonders if it was the knife, but Zoe points out that though it is a celestial bronze knife, it's the same as hers. Bianca's and Zoe's are the same, so it's not like hers is special in any way. And that made me think, okay, really got to be the parentage. But then I was wondering, why would the knife work but not the arrow? Because when they were fighting the zombies before, arrows were just kind of going through the skull, and it wasn't until the zombie got really close to Bianca and she used the knife. I don't know if it's like a proximity thing, but that at least would make Hades feel like a little more like a solid bet, but who's to say?
I certainly can't.
That is true. That is true. Otherwise, the trap door will send you. So
The other reason I think it's the parents is that no one says anything about parents. They kind of like talk about, is it the knife? Is it this? And then they go, let's just move on. At no point does Percy go, wait, it's chapter 13 and we still don't know who your parents are? Like, because they are not talking about it at all, I feel like I might know what's going on here. Now, Percy wonders if maybe it is a certain spot in the zombie, like you hit it right in the red flashing video game boss area. Maybe you just got it in the right spot, which I think is a great suggestion.
But like zombies are Death Stars. Like,
if you get it in the lower right abdomen.
the 2-meter exhaust port in the zombie.
Oh, man. Bianca is uncomfortable being the center of attention, so she tries to change the subject. So Zoe changes the subject to, all right, what's our next move? She thinks that they should go through this junkyard and go to the nearest major city, Las Vegas. And Percy is about to be like, hi, I actually had a very bad time in Las Vegas. Can we please not do that? But before he can even do that, you have Bianca step in. And before I was thinking, Chiron might call in and be like, no, the plot! We can't go to Las Vegas again! But no, Bianca actually steps in really quickly to say that she doesn't want to go to Las Vegas. And it's a very violent reaction. And when Zoe asks her why not, she doesn't really have a fully formed answer, but she says she recalls stopping there along the travels. And at this point, I'm like, all right, Bianca, you're not 12. You keep talking about all these trips you've done. It doesn't add up. Something is wrong here. We will see very soon that something might be up. So Percy kind of takes a beat and goes, you didn't stay at a place called the Lotus Hotel and Casino, did you?
What?
Yeah, then she goes, how could you know that? And then Percy and Grover just immediately know, oh no, this is really bad. They kind of talk about the situation because Bianca said someone came to get them. So Percy asks, who came to get you? And Bianca says she doesn't remember, but also she doesn't want to talk about it, which means she remembers. Zoe is kind of in on this whole thing too, because she presses Bianca saying, okay, this is another weird thing. You talked about DC not having a subway when you were a kid, but they definitely do have a subway. So Zoe, and what I think is a great move, goes, who's the president? Which is like, isn't that, doctor-wise, isn't that like a standard thing you ask people?
Not always a standard thing, but like we will do something where we like to see if you're alert and oriented when we're talking to you. Mm-hmm. So it's like, do you know where you are? What's going on? And so we'll also see if you're oriented to time. Kind of a relevant question in this point. But yeah, so we'll say like, who's the president or other things, like what day of the week is it, what month? Okay. We don't always ask the president because it can be kind of a controversial question.
I was going to say, this used to be a different sort of question. Because I'm pretty sure, and Kelly, who is in the green room, can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when her mom got asked one of these questions in a medical situation, it was late 2019, and I think they asked her, who's the president? And I want to say her mom said something to the effect of, oh, it's Trump, isn't it? I'll have to well-deserved bleep that one. Yeah. Sherry, wait. You're going to have to bleep that. Let's get some cool one-star reviews into, I had to turn off the podcast after episode 53. Anyway, moving on, Percy Jackson. So, what I also love here is that after Zoe asks, who's the president, Bianca says, don't be silly. And then narrator Percy goes in and says, she told us the correct name of the president, which is a great way to not date the book, but then also like potentially alternate universe the book, which I think is fun. So then Zoe asks a very good follow-up question. Hold on. Okay.
He tries not to date the book, but the very next sentence is, that was like 70 years ago.
About 70 years ago. What they kind of do here, as we will get into it, is if you've ever watched The West Wing, they take the West Wing approach to it, which is you can talk about really old presidents, but you can't talk about presidents that would be vaguely recent. And it is funny when they have to like blame stuff on Richard Nixon, but they can't. So they have to like vaguely talk about like corrupt Republican presidents and not like call it out. It's very funny to see the West Wing like dodge around talking about how Nixon and Reagan ruined the country. Anyway, enough one-star reviews for me. I do think it's a great move to say, she said the correct name of the president. Moving on, Zoe then asks an incredible follow-up question. Okay, who was the president before that? And then Bianca says Roosevelt. Just straight up Roosevelt, which has Zoe do a big and
And then she asks which one, which I thought was a smart maneuver to do, because there is more than one. For all the international folks, multiple Roosevelts, both good in different ways. I don't know. I don't like saying any president was good. National parks are cool. Go Teddy Roosevelt. But when I was reading this, I did have to think for a second, because in my brain it's Teddy Roosevelt, national parks, FDR, World War II. Because for a second I was like, which Roosevelt came first? but so she says FDR, which is at least the more recent answer. So she's not that old, but she is old. I do appreciate though that once she says FDR, Percy, ever the New Yorker, goes, like FDR Drive? And then as the narrator says, because seriously, it's about all I knew about FDR. Percy, we're not too far off. Zoe informs Bianca, as you alluded to, that he was president about 70 years ago. Bianca says that it's impossible because she's not that old. All right, sure. And then narrator Percy, as Stephen is mimicking, narrator Percy says she stared at her hands as if to make sure they weren't wrinkled, which felt very Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, oh no! So Thalia then comforts her, because Thalia has also had a weird situation of being a tree for a couple of years. And says, look, what's important is that you and Nico got out and you're safe. That's all that matters. Percy is confused as to how she could have escaped the Lotus Casino, though, because they were only in there for an hour and they barely got past the point of no return. What was the retro dude that they met with the old school sounding name? Come on, no one in the crowd? Remember, wasn't it Terry or something? Darrin, thank you. And he spelled his name weird or something too. Yes. So yeah, we need to it needs to be the official the Darrin line. And at what point is it the point of no return? But Percy is confused. How the heck did you get out of there? And Bianca gets a little flustered. She's on the verge of tears. Basically says that a man came and I don't know who it was and said it was time to leave. My kind of theory would be that this is maybe their godly parent, but I'm not really sure. I don't know if this is a situation where Bianca genuinely doesn't know who it was, or if she's kind of clouding the information.
Beats me.
Trapdoor not activated. Percy continues to press, which I found surprising, because Percy is usually the king of, she seemed upset, so I stopped saying things. But he keeps going on, asking who it was, why did he do it? But then there are some headlights that turn on in the distance of the junkyard. And at first, Percy hopes that it's Apollo, which is a wild thing to hope. But I guess most recently he did help them out, getting him on the train. But then he remembers it's nighttime and the engine is way too quiet to be the Sun Chariot. So it is a deathly white limousine that skids in front of them. The back door opens and a sword is right at Percy's throat. And I thought, oh, okay, that's Luke's signature move. But then a voice says, not so fast are you, punk? And then I wrote, oh, no, it's Ares. And it is Ares, who is not dead, as I misspoke in an earlier episode. I said Ares was dead. I truly meant he was defeated, not dead.
Dead feeded.
Well, yeah, but it was it's funny because people were calling me out in emails and I wanted to be like, is there a way that I can spin this to say that I meant he went to the underworld because he got teleported away / he left? And I was like, nah, I just misspoke. It's fine. But yeah, not dead, but he's back. I guess his heel's doing fine. Everyone's got their weapons drawn, and then Ares snaps his fingers and makes all of the weapons fall to the ground, which, as much as you want to hate Ares, it's a pretty cool move. Gotta hand it to him. Now, Ares assures them all that it is a friendly meeting, and then says, of course I'd like to take your head for a trophy, but someone wants to see you, and I've never beheaded my enemies in front of a lady. And then Thalia goes, what lady? And then Ares turns and says that he heard that she was back, and then he lowers his sword, pushes Percy away, which feels unnecessary. And then he gets into it with Thalia. Thalia asks who was in the car. Ares says that he doubts she, whoever's in the car, would want to meet with anyone else besides Percy. And Ares clarifies to say, especially not them, in italics, pointing at Bianca and Zoe. And I thought, oh, okay, Aphrodite's in the car. It's the only person who would have beef with hunters. And Ares suggests that the rest of them go get tacos while she talks with Percy, saying that this conversation will only take a couple of minutes.
I need more than a couple minutes for tacos, man.
I mean, truly. You're a born and raised Texan from San Antonio. Yeah. But I mean, hey, that's valid. Even though I'm not a Texan, I lived there for 10 years. We're going to need more than a few minutes. I'm going to be putting down a lot of
Let's
tacos.
just do it right, we've come all the way out to Ghost Town, Arizona.
Which is going to have incredible tacos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just like by the formula of tacos, like the more sketchy the location, the better the tacos. That's why Taqueria Ruby #5, the permanently parked taco truck under a highway in Houston, the best tacos.
And randomly, there's a bunch of bird cages. It's very weird.
The owner likes birds. There's birds around. There's chickens around. Are those the chickens you eat? Who's to say? Yeah. Tacos are good. They only cost $2. They're not paying me. If you go to Houston, Texas, eat at Taqueria Ruby #5. Thank me later. But yeah, when I go there, I get 4 tacos and a 32-ounce horchata for like $15, which would be $9,000 here in New York. Now, I was worried here thinking, all right, somebody's going to get lost. Is Percy the one going to get lost? Is he going to get in this car and is going to skirt away? Stranger danger? Not the situation, but at least I was thinking about this. Zoe, which I appreciate, says that they don't want to leave him alone. I like that she's really gone for thinking about the team. Percy's really part of the team here. Grover says that the taco place is closed, but Ares then snaps his fingers and then it is magically open and running and everything is good. Is he also the god of greasy food or something?
I don't know, but by far, this is Ares' best power.
Because he's done this with the diner in book 1. Now he's got the taco spot. Like, he feels like the right guy to go partying with.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
You're drunk or high. It's 3 a.m. It's like, oh, Ares, we need some food. And he just goes, oh, it's a combination Pizza Hut Taco Bell. And you're like, yes! Thank you! Now, Percy tells them to go on because he can handle this. And narrator Percy says, I tried to sound more confident than I felt. I don't think Ares was fooled because Ares goes, you heard the boy. He's big and strong. He's got things under control. Which is not what you want to hear when you're trying to be big and strong. Narrator Percy then says a sentence that I will never say in my entire life. Quote, my friends reluctantly headed over to the taco restaurant. Get new friends. So Percy enters the limo, and when he sees the person in the limo, basically does the auga, and his eyes bulge out of his head. He turns into a cartoon wolf because he sees Aphrodite and just talks about how pretty she is. The description that I'm giving is only half of the description. Quote, she was wearing a red satin dress and her hair was curled in a cascade of ringlets. Her face was the most beautiful I'd ever seen. Perfect makeup, dazzling eyes, a smile that would have lit up the dark side of the moon. I guess Uncle Rick is a Pink Floyd fan. And then he continues, pick the most beautiful actress you can think of. The goddess was 10 times more beautiful than that. Pick your favorite hair color, eye color, whatever. The goddess had that. Love that. It's a really good description.
Yeah.
I think Rick is very good at describing characters in a way that is fun and gives you the vibe, not just what they look like. You kind of get more of a sense of personality in it too, even though they haven't said anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is the strength of his writing, and I think it's really important, especially when he's like introducing gods, because they often do embody like an actual feeling or concept. They exist beyond just being a sentient being that you're interacting with. So he kind of has to carve out some narrative space for that.
Yeah, and I think it's fun, to your point. Kelly just texted me, wild that he described Aphrodite just like Kelly. A+, well done. Sorry I didn't say that. Very, very good show. But what I appreciate, to the point that you're saying, is that this is what makes me feel like the gods in these books feel more like characters than they do the actual gods or goddesses themselves. And that's why when I learn things from Dr. Moya, who is in the crowd somewhere, but myth correspondent Dr. Moya. When Moya tells me things about the actual myths, it's almost like separate, because I feel like Rick does such a good job of establishing them as characters that I think of them completely differently. And I think it goes a long way in the story. When Ares is a jerk, you get it because the character of Ares is a jerk.
Yeah.
So at first, Percy says that she looks like Annabeth. And then she kind of looks, I know, really sweet, right?
Maybe they're just good friends.
Says at first she looks like Annabeth, then an actress that he had a crush on in 5th grade, then like Kelly Schubert. So, he just keeps listening. Just keeps listing attractive people. It made me think he doesn't like fully say it. He just says, you get the idea, but maybe it's kind of keeps taking the form of anyone you've ever had a crush on or thought was attractive. Maybe that's the magic.
That's a vibe I get.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people can like a lot of different types of people. So
Yes.
why not let it shift around?
Yeah, I think it's fun. So she introduces herself as Aphrodite, and Percy says that he said something like, quote, a ga. She calls him sweet and has him hold up a mirror so that she can fix up her seemingly perfect lipstick, but you got to adjust it, just like me with my hair. You got to do it. It's okay. She then asks if he knows why she's here. And he has to literally pinch himself to snap back and say an actual sentence. And he says that he doesn't know. She asks, oh, are you still in denial? And then he hears Ares chuckle outside. And that angers Percy so much that he's able to focus on the conversation. Which is great. It's really, really good. Aphrodite asks, why are you on this quest? And he says, Artemis. And she goes, oh, please. And Aphrodite then weirdly is jealous that she wasn't captured instead. She does the whole thing of, oh, if they were going to capture someone, shouldn't it be someone who was, really breathtakingly beautiful or something? Just a thought. It's just a strange vibe. But then Percy says that she was following a monster. It's important that they find the monster. And Aphrodite says, oh, there's always a monster to find. And then she clarifies, look, Artemis is the reason why the others are on this quest, but why are you on this quest? And Percy doesn't want to admit it, but he just can't help but to answer her. And he says, Annabeth. And he mentions the dreams, and then Aphrodite thinks it's very cute that Percy dreams about Annabeth. And then Percy tries to backtrack and say that's not what he meant. What else did you mean? Oh, I dream about her, but they're like scary, so it's different.
Not ideal, okay?
Aphrodite then reveals that she was behind the poisoned shirt and Blackjack finding Percy and helping him sneak out. And her reasoning is that the hunters, their quest is after a monster / Artemis, and that's boring. But a quest over true love is more exciting, so she messed with stuff to make it happen. Wow, nobody cares about Phoebe? That was her name, right? Who I definitely care about. Percy tries to protest that he never said that this was for love. And Aphrodite says, quote, oh, my dear, you didn't need to say it. You do know Annabeth was close to joining the hunters, don't you? And Percy blushes and says that he wasn't sure. But Aphrodite says that he can save her from that, which would be very romantic. And she says that the hunters are his enemies. He should forget about Artemis and this monster, and he should just focus on finding Annabeth. Percy asks, do you know where she is? And Aphrodite irritably waves her hands and says, no, I leave the details to you. But it's been ages since we've had a good tragic love story, which feels very convenient of her to be like, oh, no, I can't interfere. I totally know where she is, but I can't meddle with the quest, Percy, no. Now, Percy says that he never mentioned love and then goes, also, you keep saying tragic? Can we maybe not keep saying tragic?
Yeah, I didn't sign up for that.
No, not at all. Aphrodite says love conquers all, and then she cites Helen and Paris as this lovely couple. Aphrodite asks, did they let anything come between them? And Percy says, didn't they start the Trojan War and get thousands of people killed? And Aphrodite goes, that's not the point. Follow your heart. I love it. Aphrodite's great. I'm a big fan. Yeah. Percy says he doesn't know where his heart is going, and Aphrodite says not knowing is half the fun. And then she goes on about how the situation of them not knowing is cute, but that also she's not going to make it easy because she has surprises in store, quote, anguish, indecision, oh, just you wait. And then Percy goes, that's really okay, don't go to any trouble, which is very, very good. I had the same thought of, no, it's all right, you can make it easy, that's totally fine, we don't have to play on expert mode.
Yeah, it's our first run through, Yeah,
just let me play through on normal, and then after beating the game, or do you have to beat hard to unlock sick mode in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? I think you do. I would always play hard and then sick. Aphrodite tears up and says, you're so, in italics, cute. I wish all my daughters could break the heart of a boy as nice as you. Now you'd better go, and do be careful in my husband's territory, Percy. Don't take anything. He's awfully fussy about his trinkets and trash. And then I realized, that does make sense. Hephaestus junkyard, metal things, got it. Percy tries to confirm that she is referring to Hephaestus, but Ares yanks him out of the limo and says that Percy is lucky that Aphrodite is making him play nice. And Ares starts to go on about how, if I had it my way. And then Percy interrupts him and asks, why haven't you just killed me yet?
Yeah.
And Ares says, which is a very good retort, that there is a rumor that Percy might start the biggest war in history, and he can't throw away that golden opportunity. Pretty good.
Yeah, I actually love there's a line right there where it's just like, Ares gets a look on his face. It's like, it's the first time Percy had said anything sensible to him their entire life.
Ares also mentions that he wants to stay in the good graces of Aphrodite, who's very invested in this whole love story, but he does tell Percy to remember his promise. One day he will raise his sword and feel the wrath of the god of war. Shout out to book 4 or 5 when this happens. But Percy says, why wait? I beat you once. How's that ankle healing up? Good comeback. And Ares says, not bad, punk, but you got nothing on the master of taunts. I'll start the fight when I'm good and ready. Until then, get lost. Thanks, master of taunts. Get lost? Like, I've heard better taunts from Biff from Back to the Future. Second Back to the Future reference in the first act.
Hey.
That is a horrible taunt. That is not get lost. Cool. Ugh. Very disappointed.
Yeah, and it's not like Percy didn't taunt him in the first book that got him in this whole predicament in the first place.
Right.
Like, he falls for taunts all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. All Ares does is say punk. Yeah. You need something else, my guy. Narrator Percy then says, he snapped his fingers and the world did a 360, spinning in a cloud of red dust. I fell to the ground. Is it tomorrow or yesterday now? The world did a 360? Like, they're on a deadline. Days are important.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this something? Look, man. Just, you never know. He's a god. It could be real.
Maybe Percy spun.
Look, he said the world, not me.
It's a first-person narrative.
I'm making a joke on my comedy podcast.
Okay, fine.
Anyway, Percy falls to the ground. When Percy stands up, the limo and the entire town are gone. It's just the team in the middle of the junkyard. My first thought, were they able to eat the tacos? How bad would it be if you're about to take a bite and then yoink? Like, no, my tacos al pastor.
Good choice. Good choice.
Hey, always a good one. Once Percy relays what happened to the team, Bianca asks, what did she want with you? Percy lies that he's not sure. It just says that she told him to let them know to be careful in the junkyard, not to pick up anything. And Zoe, she's got her BS detector firing on all cylinders, just goes, she would not make a trip just to say that. There must be something else. But she warns him without calling him out, which I do appreciate. She just warns him vaguely that Aphrodite has led many heroes astray. And Thalia says, for once, I agree with Zoe, you can't trust Aphrodite. I was floored. This is growth from Thalia. Grover gives Percy a knowing look, as if he can sense exactly what Aphrodite was talking to him about. Percy then changes the subject by asking, how do we get out of here? And Zoe points in the direction of west, and Percy asks how she knows. Come on, dude. I do appreciate, though, as the narrator, he says, in the light of the full moon, I was surprised how well I could see her roll her eyes at me. And she points out Ursa Major as how she could tell which direction west was. And Percy goes, oh yeah, the bear thing. Which I thought was funny because I basically thought, right, the bear one, when she said Ursa Major. Zoe is offended, saying, quote, show some respect. It was congratulations. Show some respect. It was a fine bear, a worthy opponent. Percy goes, you're saying that like it's real, but Grover then says, look! And narrator Percy says that they had reached the crest of Junk Mountain. Piles of metal objects glinted in the moonlight. Broken heads of bronze horses, metal legs from human statues, smashed chariots, tons of shields and swords and other weapons, along with more modern stuff, like cars that gleamed gold and silver, refrigerators, washing machines, and computer monitors. I like that computer monitors got in there. Because at least in my brain, I was picturing only metal things, because when I think of Hephaestus, I only think of metal. But then I was thinking of like my parents' Compaq desktop with a weird off-white, vague, plasticky thing. But Bianca then says that some of the things in here look like real gold. And Thalia says that some of those things are real gold, but again, warns them not to touch anything. And I thought, okay, somebody's going to touch something.
No, they can follow directions. Right?
It's the second time in 2 pages. That is a far too high rate of saying something and then, it's definitely going to happen. Grover, in the next sentence, picks something up. Grover, of all the people, I did not have him very high on my person likely to pick something up rankings. But he picks something up and it's a crown and then he begins to eat it. Grover, did you or did you not just eat tacos? Come on, man. Oh my gosh. But Bianca then runs down a hill and picks up a hunter's bow. And I just wrote my notes, oh my gods, they're idiots. I would be so furious if I was in this situation. Like, there's literally one rule, and you guys have broken it very quickly. Now, she picks up this bow and arrow, and it then becomes a crescent moon-shaped hairpin, and Bianca says it's just like Percy's sword. Now, we did learn about this from Percy's dream previously, but we didn't know that Bianca knew this, so that means that Zoe and Bianca have talked about this, which I find very interesting. And then they don't address this quote at all, which makes me feel like this is definitely very interesting and will come up in a later chapter. Trapdoor not activated! Zoe then, with a grim face, which also made me think, all right, this is serious, tells Bianca to leave it. Quote, "It is here for a reason. Anything thrown away in this junkyard must stay in this yard. It is defective or cursed." And Thalia says she doesn't like this place. Percy asks if she thinks they're going to be attacked by killer refrigerators, which, because I was already thinking about Brave Little Toaster, I thought, look, not too far off. It could happen.
So is there anything in the graveyard that would make you want to, pick it up?
No, if they told me there was one rule, I probably wouldn't. But if I was going past that, if there's something I really wanted that would be cool in metal,
What if a really cool metal hairbrush? That turn into...
But if I'm blow drying, then it would be hot, and that would be a whole thing. So I don't know if I want a metal hairbrush. I mean, if there was a very cool, I don't know, if there was a cool an accessory, if there was a cool necklace or something, maybe. But I don't know. I'm not one for, I don't know. I don't know if this calculator watch is stainless steel that's painted gold. It's not, this necklace is my grandma's. I don't buy jewelry. Is there anything you would want? Would you pick up the guitar like Percy picks up the guitar in a page or so?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Now Thalia again agrees with Zoe that things that get thrown away here are thrown away for a reason. And Percy, I wrote in my notes because I put asterisks around again, Percy says, that's the second time you've agreed with Zoe. I like that he's ready to call out weird situations.
No, he's just mad people aren't agreeing with him.
Percy then picks up an electric guitar shaped like Apollo's lyre, which he justifies as too cool not to pick up. Maybe if there's a rule about not picking stuff up. Anyway, Grover then finds a broken tree made of metal with golden birds on the branches, and he tries to make the birds flap, which is cute, but also, stop picking things up, everyone! Ay. They then see the edge of the junkyard about a half a mile ahead, and they see the lights of a highway. But between them and the exit is a huge hill. And narrator Percy says, quote, "It was like a metal mesa, the length of a football field and as tall as goalposts. At one end of the mesa was a row of 10 thick metal columns wedged tightly together." Now, I definitely know what a mesa is, but in case anyone watching or listening or here in the crowd doesn't, is that a rock formation?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a particular shape to it?
Yeah, it looks kind of like a table. This is a joke for people that speak Spanish.
The people in the stream from Spanish-speaking countries are just
for y'all.
Digitally roaring with laughter.
But yeah, mesa is Spanish for table.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it kind of
it's flat on top.
Got it.
It's kind of like a mountain. Yeah.
Good language, Spanish. Well done indeed. So what they then realize is that it looks like large metal toes. And that makes Zoe and Thalia exchange very nervous looks. And I'm thinking, all right, what do they know? But before we learn what they know, we need to pass it over to a live version of The Titan's Purse. Ha ha! So we're about to take a little bit of a break here for Act 1. We will finish up the rest of this chapter in Act 2, but we'll be back after a brief intermission. See you all soon.
Hello and welcome to the Titan's Purse Portland edition. I'm coming to you live from my hotel in undisclosed location here in Portland, Oregon. Just got back from the live show. It is late at night, so this is going to be a pretty quick edition of the Titan's Purse. First, if you're listening to this live show and you're thinking, man, oh man, it sounds like this was a blast to be at. I wish I could more than just listen to the show. I wish I could feel like I was there. Well, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/merch and you can get the video replay of the show. They had a 7-camera setup for the show, so the stream was very immersive, and for just $10, you can get a replay of the show. And it's not just extra in terms of the visuals, but there's some stuff I had to cut out. I had to cut out some of the Q&A for time. So if you want extra content and a video component, and you get to see some of the physical antics between me and Steven and Sherry and the crowd, fun stuff all around, you can go to thenewsolympian.com/merch to get the video replay. Speaking of live shows, we do have one more on the docket for 2022. We're working on adding some other shows, but at this point in time, on October 9th, we will be in Dallas, Texas, doing a part TNO, part Potterless show. There will be some special guests. There will be some antics. It will be wonderful. If you want to get tickets, you can go to thenewsolympian.com/live. And if you go to thenewsolympian.com/merch, you can get the new merch we made, the Pro Pigeon podcast shirt, the TNO socks, and that video replay of this show that you're currently listening to, the New York City live show. Shortly after this mid-roll break, you're going to hear me say stuff about I gotta use my hands, and the crowd laughs. I'm fixing my hair frantically. These are some of the fun jokes that you will get if you have visual cues, if you get that video replay of the show. Also, at some point in the show, I give a shout out to guests who were in attendance at the show, and I failed to mention that Sarah Shackett was in attendance. She was, and I'm so glad she attended, and I want to make sure that I give her the credit that I should have given her live. I'm a foolish man for not saying her name on stage. Also, much later in the Q&A, I talk about me and my friend playing Rock Band, and I failed to mention that our Rock Band name was Knights of the Kitchen Table, and it was very good. We made our logo a crest with kitchen appliances in the 4 quadrants of it. Man, it was so good. We were so good. What a time. What a time. You'll understand this when you get to the Q&A at the end of this episode. That aside, I also want to thank all of the folks who are supporting the show on Patreon, and I want to give a shout out to our newest patrons. So shout out to our newest Super God tier patrons, AJ and Jillian Sweat. Shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Chris Peters and Melissa Perry. And shout out to our newest Demigod tier patrons, Abby, Caleb Ray, Bossany, Zach Perkins, and Jasmine Wingert. And finally, a name correction for Amanda Myronick. Thank you all so much for your support. May Apollo bless you all with the ability to get up when your alarm goes off. Maybe I'm saying this because I have an alarm that I need to get up for tomorrow morning so that I can move my car out of the parking that begins early tomorrow morning. And I would like this blessing to be upon you that whenever you have alarms set, you wake up for them. And finally, before we wrap up here, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of these ads will be read by me, others of them won't. The ones that are not read by me are inserted locally. And if you ever get a weird ad, please send me an email to thenewsolympian@gmail.com. I have a lot of categories blocked, but sometimes sneaky advertisers come through and gun ranges will mark their ads as not guns, and it's very frustrating. They'll say that they're recreation or it's awful. And I always work with my hosting site to get all those blocks. So if you ever get a weird one, please send me an email and I will get it squashed immediately. But those ads are inserted locally, so if you're here in Portland, Oregon, don't be surprised if you hear an ad for the Rose Garden, which is really great. And I don't know if they do ads, but if you're in Portland, you should go. The roses are super cool. I highly recommend. They're not paying me to say this. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of The Newest Olympian.
All right. Thank you all very much. You will all be getting $1 in your Square Cash apps. All right, now we've got more Percy Jackson to cover, so let's cover said Percy Jackson. Everybody have a good intermission? I missed you all so dearly. Great. Okay, cool. I was frantically signing posters with my celestial bronze Sharpie. To make sure that we didn't run out. All right, here we go. So our team realizes that these big hills of sorts look like large metal toes, which is disgusting. Zoe and Thalia exchange nervous looks. I'm wondering what they know. Thalia suggests that they go around, which I think, great idea. Percy wants to go through. Bad idea. And because the last time Percy had a great idea, they lost capture the flag, I feel like Percy should not be in charge of making decisions.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Now, Grover, I don't know what's gotten into Grover. He throws a piece of scrap metal at the toes. And then Zoe gets very upset, justifiably, and goes, what was that for? And then he says, I don't know, I don't like fake feet. You use fake feet all the time! I was not joking. Genuinely, I was like, is Grover possessed or something? Like, he's usually so sound, and he is acting up. Is it the caffeine? What's going on?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like he's kind of off kilter, right? He just...
Look, you're talking, I gotta use my hands.
Okay, fine.
There's 515 people watching the stream. This is high stakes.
I'm just... Feel good now?
I feel great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Look, this is our podcast. This is a one-way conversation. We talk, you laugh. Continue.
Yeah, no, I was thinking, I mean, he did just have this experience with Pan. I think he's all discombobulated right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I think maybe he just hates feet because he has to wear them so much.
That was the other thing I was thinking, is that maybe it's a begrudging, like, everybody makes me do this all the time. I don't want to have to wear these, so it's kind of a lashing out thing. But I don't know if he's ever complained about them before. He's struggled with them to walk, but he's never been like, he's freaking... You know, he's never grumbled about it. Anyway.
Never like, those just feet.
They don't even have orthotics in them. So Thalia says, we're going around. And Percy does not protest. Good. Because the toes are freaking Percy out. So he thinks it's okay to be far away from them. They finally reach the highway. And I thought, okay, this is way too easy. Something is going to happen. Zoe says, thank the gods, but then they hear a sound that sounds like 1,000 trash compactors crushing metal. And the toes are real toes because they belong to, as we all anticipated, a bronze giant in full Greek battle armor that rises from Scrap Mountain. Quote, he was impossibly tall, a skyscraper with legs and arms. He gleamed wickedly in the moonlight. He looked down at us, and his face was deformed. The left side was partially melted off. His joints creaked with rust, and across his armored chest, written in thick dust by some giant finger, were the words, wash me. A very funny joke. I need to know who did this. Who wrote the wash me? Because you're now my favorite character in the Percy Jackson universe. It's so funny. Zoe identifies him as Talos, and though Dr. Moy in the back knows what's going on, I don't know what's up with Talos. We'll talk soon, about what's going on. Also, I have to note that there's a lot of other guests in the crowd. Alyssa Esteban's in the crowd, as is Bobby Wagner. And there's like a whole, people who've been on the pod in the crowd, which is very fun. And Alyssa texted me while we were backstage saying, I can't believe I forgot Darrin with an I, because it was her chapter where we met Darrin. So Zoe identifies him as Talos. Percy asks who that is, and Zoe says it's one of Hephaestus's creations, but this version is too small to be the original, so she guesses that it's either a prototype or a defective model. And narrator Percy says, the metal giant didn't like the word defective. He gets up, he draws his 100-foot-long sword to the tune of awful metal grinding against metal noises. And Zoe says that someone must have taken something. And Percy looks around because Zoe first looks at him and he goes, look, I'm following the rules. Let's forget about the guitar, but I'm following the rules. But then he catches the look of Bianca, who looks very guilty. And Grover calls for them to run. So they split up. Talos swipes near Thalia and sends sparks flying because he knocks down a bunch of power lines. And Zoe then starts firing arrows, which are harmless. This seems to be a theme. Zoe's arrows don't do anything. Ever. She's supposed to be the greatest hunter that's left. She's worthless. Her arrows do nothing. At least Bianca's done the cool knife thing and made a zombie disappear. Zoe's done absolutely nothing. She did the final blow on the lion. Just kidding.
I don't know. Maybe they should upgrade some tech. Maybe get to crossbows or something.
Or like, just different arrows. I don't know. This is our podcast. Send an email to thenewsolympian@gmail.com if you want to talk to us. Regardless, My bad. Zoe has done stuff, but it's been a minute, Zoe. What have you done for me lately? Bianca and Percy are hiding together. And Percy takes the opportunity to go, all right, what did you take? What did you take, Bianca? and he at first thinks, oh, did you take that bow that you're using? And she says, it's not the bow, which is a great deflecting of not saying I didn't take anything, but just saying, it's not the bow.
We're playing Guess Who now?
20 questions. Is it a weapon? No. So he asks, okay, what was it then? But then they can't answer because the giant's foot is about to come through, so they have to dodge it. But Grover gets Talos's attention, and he plays a reed pipe song, which causes the down power lines to dance. Grover's magic game is really stepping up, and I really like to see it.
Oh, yeah.
He's not just nature boy, he's not just searcher boy, he's actively a good spellcaster for the team.
Yeah, and it's great to see that he's had this real progression since the first book, right? He was scared, he was cowardly, he only knew So Yesterday by Hilary Duff on his reed pipes.
Certified bop,
certified bop, but
maybe expand it a little more.
Yeah, we're going on. He's probably the greatest improv member of the Laugh Bloods, Half-Blood, Camp Half-Blood at this point. Mm-hmm. He's great at lying, as we've established, and now he's got this tracker magic. He's dancing poles. It's great to see Grover become Grovered up.
Growth-ver is the joke you were looking for.
That's what it was. Thank you.
Because I know I could see your brain. I was like, Steven's trying to think of a button. I know this look. Narrator Percy says, quote, I understood what Grover was going to do a split second before it happened. This felt very much like when I brag about knowing what's going to happen before reading the book. He then says that one of the poles with the power line still attached to it flies towards Talos's back leg, and then it wraps around his calf, and then it sparks, and it's enough to distract him. The electricity goes up the giant's backside, so I like that it, shocks him in the butt. And that is enough of a distraction for Percy and Bianca to escape. And then when they do, Percy says, look, whatever you took, you gotta return it. Maybe it will stop him. And she takes out a small metal figurine. And all it says is, of a god, which I thought was very particular of the narrator not to say what god. And going on my guesses here, as I had mentioned earlier in the episode/show/stream, depending on how you're consuming this content, I had mentioned I was thinking Bianca's parents, maybe Ares, maybe Hades. Because Ares didn't show up and go, what's up, kids? I was thinking a little bit more their dad might be Hades. And maybe this figurine is a Hades figurine, because I don't think Nico has mentioned that he had that one yet in the Mythomagic set.
I can't. You can't expect me to remember these things.
So many chapters ago.
I know.
But that was my thought, because she drops it reluctantly with tears in her eyes. It feels very emotional. Now, unfortunately, the giant does not stop. And also, unfortunately, Grover gets covered in a pile of junk after a big swipe from Talos. So Thalia then hits him in the knee with a lightning bolt, and Talos gets knocked down, but then he begins to rise again. He raises his foot to go in for a stomp, but when it's up in the air, Percy notices a maintenance manhole in the opening of its heel. And at first, I was picturing a hole in his heel that goes all the way through, and Percy's going to do the thing where he stands perfectly and doesn't get squashed. But Percy's idea that he has is way wilder. He wants to go inside the maintenance hatch to try to mess with some switches and stuff to try to take it down. Percy calls for Bianca to distract it so that he can go inside, but Bianca says, no, I'll go. And Percy goes, no, you're too new and too young. But then Bianca goes, no, I am the reason that we're in this mess. Let me do it. And now we're going to turn to something that many people have requested that I do often, and we saved it for the live show. I'm going to read the final bit of this live.
He has not read this yet.
I have not read this point, so. Oh, no. All right.
I don't know what y'all are freaking out about.
So where we're at, Bianca didn't wait for Percy, charged at it because he was trying to say, stop. She charged at the monster's foot. Thalia had its attention for the moment. She'd learned that the giant was big but slow. If you could stay close to it and not get smashed, you could run around it and stay alive. At least it was working so far. Bianca got right next to the giant's foot, trying to balance herself on the metal scraps that swayed and shifted with its weight. Zoe yelled, what are you doing? Get it to raise its foot, she said. Zoe shot an arrow. Oh, great, this'll work. Zoe shot an arrow towards the monster's face, and it flew straight into one nostril. The giant straightened and shook its head. Hey, junk boy, I yelled, down here. All right, you're not the god of taunts either, Percy. I ran up to its big toe and stabbed it with a riptide. The magic blade cut a gash in the bronze. Unfortunately, my plan worked. Talos looked down at me and raised his foot to squash me like a bug. I didn't see what Bianca was doing. I had to turn and run. The foot came down about 2 inches behind me, and I was knocked into the air. I hit something hard and sat up, dazed. I'd been thrown into an Olympus Air refrigerator. Fun brand. The monster was about to finish me off, but Grover somehow dug himself out of the junk pile. Good, great, whoof. He played his pipes frantically, and his music sent another power line pole whacking against Talos' thigh. The monster turned. Grover should have run, but he must have been too exhausted from the effort of so much magic. He took 2 steps, fell, and didn't get back up. Grover! Thalia and I both ran towards him, but I knew we'd be too late. The monster raised his sword to smash Grover, then he froze. Talos cocked his head to one side like he was hearing strange new music. He started moving his arms and legs in weird ways, doing the funky chicken. Okay. Is Uncle Rick an Atlanta Falcons football fan?
Obviously.
Then he made his fist and punched himself in the face. Go Bianca, I yelled. Zoe looked horrified. She is inside, in italics. The monster staggered around and I realized we were still in danger. Thalia and I grabbed Grover and ran with him toward the highway. Zoe was already ahead of us. She yelled, how will Bianca get out? The giant hit itself in the head again and dropped his sword. A shudder ran through his whole body and he staggered toward the power lines. Look out, I yelled, but it was too late. The giant's ankle snared the lines and blue flickers of electricity shot up his body. I hope the inside was insulated. Yeah, damn it, that's a good joke. I had no idea what was going on in there. The giant careened back into the junkyard and his right hand fell off, landing in the scrap metal with a horrible clang. His left arm came loose too. He was falling apart at the joints. Talos began to run. Wait, Zoe yelled. We ran after him, but there was no way he could keep up. Pieces of the robot kept falling off, getting in our way. The giant crumbled from the top down, his head, chest, and finally his legs collapsed. When we reached the wreckage and we searched frantically, yelling Bianca's name, we crawled around no, come on, don't. We crawled around in the vast hollow pieces in the legs and the head. We searched until the sun started to rise, but no luck. Oh, okay. Better to not find her than to find dead Bianca. Oh, because, yeah, you just get lost in the desert. All right. Zoe sat down and wept. I was stunned to see her cry. Thalia yelled in rage and impaled her sword in the giant's smashed face. Nice. We can keep searching, I said. It's late now. We'll find her. No, we won't. Grover said miserably. It happened just as it was supposed to. What are you talking about? I demanded. He looked up at me with big watery eyes. The prophecy, one shall he lost. My PDF. Very good here. One shall be lost in the land without rain. Why hadn't I seen it? Why did I let her go instead of me? Here we were in the desert, and Bianca D'Angelo was gone. Oh. Okay, that's actually better than I was anticipating. I thought we were about to find like dead, squished, electrocuted Bianca.
Well, yeah, I guess if that's the marker we're using, it's not so bad.
I guess my thought here would be, if I'm right, and I hope I am, if her dad is Hades, maybe Hades did a Sally type thing where she got yeeted out of there before something truly bad could happen to her. So maybe she just kind of got teleported to the underworld and she isn't actually dead. So weirdly, I'm feeling optimistic about this very sad situation. I'm feeling okay.
Let me check my trapdoor.
But
I'm not going to comment.
But that is the end of chapter 13, and that is the end of this episode of the News Olympian for now. But we still got some time until I get kicked out of this very nice venue. So, across all platforms, let's bring Sherry Guo out to the stage to do some Q&A. Hello! Give it up for Sherry! Yeah! All right. So, Sherry, we've got some time.
Okay, your first question is from your wife.
Okay, good. I see you are picking him at random.
Oh, yeah.
Very random. Kelly asks, what is your favorite sea creature?
Oh, my favorite sea creature. Well, I am wearing a seahorse sweater, yes. I do not know that that is my favorite sea... When I was a kid, I always thought that hammerhead sharks were really cool because I thought their heads were really funny.
Yeah.
So that would at least be my answer for now, unless I can think of something else. How about you? What's your favorite sea creature?
I used to like dolphins a lot, but like I learned they're kind of jerks.
Yep. Unfortunately, yes.
So, that was like, I guess, my first experience with just like cancel culture, but for dolphins.
Yeah, I think that would be the answers.
Okay, and this next question is from your editor.
That random number generator working its magic.
So Mike, where's your seahorse sweater from?
Okay. I mean, no free ads because despite me emailing them constantly, they have never sponsored me. It's from Bonobos, who has a lot of my clothes are from. But they first released a version of this, but it's like a short sleeve polo that's like a sweater material, which I do have. And then a little bit later, they released this, and I was like, well, I gotta get it. Because I was like, it's really cool. It'll work so well for TNO shows. And then after that, they released a bathing suit with the same pattern on it. I was like, well, I have to get that too. So Bonobos, if you are listening, one, sponsor me, please. Come on, you're overdue. But two, if you just want to keep getting my money, just make stuff with this pattern because it's a one-to-one, you make it, I buy it thing.
Okay, this next question is from Chelsea from Iowa. Chelsea says, hi, Mike and Steven. Out of the gods you've met so far, who is your favorite?
Ooh. My favorite is Hermes, I think. I just feel like, he's got the most relatable dad affect, I think, that we've seen. Like, he actually has some sort of paternalness and, like, talks to Percy like a person.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all that messengering he does. He has some more better communication skills than other gods. But yeah, I would say Hermes.
I think Hermes might be my favorite as well. I like that he kind of leveled with Percy at certain points. I like that he's not given up on his kid, Luke. But if I didn't pick Hermes, I did enjoy Artemis so far. Little kind of standoffish, but not unjustified. And I do appreciate her, she could have taken the God approach of, it's just a demigod, I don't need to save Annabeth, who I just met, a couple hours ago. But I do appreciate that she was willing to, help her out and all of that. So I think those would be my two. It is funny that I think if you asked me before reading the books, if I was going to pick just solely based on my knowledge from Hades, a video game, some of my favorite characters are Hermes and Artemis. It's like Hermes, Artemis, and Dionysus, but Dionysus is very, very different. And I am intrigued to see how Poseidon shapes out more in this book, because he was nice when we met him earlier. I don't like that he's very bad at communication, but Poseidon in Hades, the video game, just your drunk uncle, great. Highly recommend.
This next question is from Annika. Annika says, I'm a turtle specialist for Broward County in Florida, and it's hatching season. Would you and Steven like to name 2 turtle hatchlings on the live show?
Yes.
I would love to. Now I gotta think of a good turtle name.
Sheldon.
Sheldon? That's pretty good. Oh, you know what? Do we know, are they boy turtles, girl turtles, somewhere in between? I don't...
No mention.
Let me... you know what? Let's name the turtle Kelly, because it can go either way. And it won't be all right.
This next question is from Alyssa Esteban. Alyssa's question is, with quests taking our demigods all around the country, what's been the best place that your podcasting career has taken you?
Ooh. Best place that the podcasting career has taken me. It did help me get to New York so that I could live in the greatest city on earth, and then also be in the same city as my now wife, Kelly. So that was very good. But if I'm going just based on a thing that the podcasting career did for travel-related purposes, I will do this based off of something that is not live show based so that no one got upset. I got flown out to Portland for a podcast festival that was run by the Tourism Board of Portland. So they had the hookup at all the local spots. So we got all this cool stuff, free gifts and free foods, and Kelly got to fly out. They put us up in a hotel. Kelly, every couple of months asks, are they doing another one of those Portland festivals? Because they treated us very, very well, because basically the whole point was if they fly out all these podcasters and they do a bunch of live shows, they'll say really nice things about Portland, and then people want to go about Portland. Oh no, it worked. So I think that might be it. How about you? What's the best place my podcasting career has taken you?
Yeah, because I don't have one of my own.
Yet. Okay. Or ever, based on that a brow furrow.
What? I don't know. Okay. Well, I got to do this.
It's pretty cool.
This is amazing.
And there's a part 2. What random fact about yourself would you include on your Wikipedia page?
Ooh. I'll have to think back to icebreakers that I used to do. A good go-to for me was that in high school, me and my buddy Nathan were globally ranked in Rock Band 1, the video game. Now, did we both not have girlfriends over the summer between freshman and sophomore year of high school? Maybe. But we were a band of 2, and we would play. And if anyone has played Rock Band 1, to get high in the global rankings, like your points go way higher if you're 3 or 4 people. So we were ranked 300 in the world in Rock Band, which was pretty impressive / not impressive, like depending on your perspective. So that was usually my go-to in like 2 Truths and a Lie or something like that.
Yeah. My unusual skill is that I can actually like bark.
Well, you have to do it now.
I know.
Yeah.
I figure like, it's kind of loud. So let me.
Yeah, I'll.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that so successfully that a dog tries to communicate with you?
I've confused a lot of dogs.
Hell yeah. That is very fun.
This is a fun one. This is from Jess. Molly Weasley or Sally Jackson?
That is tough. I think I'm currently, let it be clear that I've not finished the Percy Jackson books yet. I think I'm going to give the edge to Molly just because we've seen more Molly, so like I can't answer just yet. But Molly just does a whole lot. She's holding down a very big family in a wild house with a husband who's sometimes a bit out there. She's got a lot to deal with. And the real answer, you can talk to the not my daughter, you B word moment. But the real thing is she deals with Percy Weasley every day of his life. Mom of the Year award. So that's at least for now. I do love Sally. I think she's fantastic. I've got more to learn.
Sally has the better Percy, but it's because Sally raised that Percy. I'm giving it to Sally.
Okay, that's a good point. It's a very good point.
This one's from Lex. If the 5 members of the Quest were the starting 5 on a basketball team, what positions would you put each of them in?
Okay.
Just gonna put my mic down.
No. Okay. So I think Zoe has to be the center. Even though I don't know how tall she is, she feels like the leader of the defense. That's where the center is going to be. That's where I put her. Thalia has to be the shooting guard because she is the one that is like, she's going to be streaky. If she gets hot, it's going to be great. Grover is definitely going to be the power forward because a big thing for power forwards in today's NBA or WNBA, as you all know, because you all listen to Horse, power forward having versatility is really key. You can play a lot of different ways if you have a versatile power forward like Draymond Green. So I would put that as Grover because Grover can touch a lot of different skill sets like we were talking about earlier. I would put Bianca at the small forward. Probably she, again, similar skill set with bow and arrow. That makes me think of range, and small forwards usually good 3-point shooters. And then Percy, because the point guard always has the ball in their hand. And if Percy wasn't that person, I don't know how he would fare. So that would be the starting 5. If you are confused, listen to Horse wherever you get your podcast.
This next question is from Sophie, who is from New Zealand.
Whoa, okay.
Hey.
Sophie asks, which of the locations that Percy Jackson visits would you most recommend, or just any New York recommendations?
Okay. I am going to start soon an FAQ page on my website, which is, hi, you've sent me a DM on social media because you're coming to New York and you know I live here and you asked me what I should do. It's like alarmingly high amount of people. It's like, I'm always happy to answer, but I'm like, wow, I'm really telling a lot of people about things to do. If I'm picking like the best city that he's gone to so far, it's New York. It's the best. Do you have any New York City recommendations? That come to mind
I
for
mean,
people?
it's like, I recommend avoiding Times Square.
Yeah.
Ideally, do not book accommodations there if you can help it. I always recommend the High Line. I really like that
High
a
Line
lot.
is good. It's a good little walking thing. I would very much recommend, any park is going to be great, especially the big ones, Central Park, Prospect Park, etc. But if you want to go to one that is cool and underrated, Roosevelt Island is fantastic.
Yes.
Nobody ever goes there, which is great. And then you can take the tram there, which is very fun. You can take the ferry there, so you could like tram one way, ferry the other way. That's very fun. But it's a cool park. There's different like statues and stuff. And they've got the Roosevelt Memorial. And then also there is a big, it's like an abandoned building. I don't know. I think it used to be like a medical ward or something, but
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if it was an asylum, so I didn't want to say that without being right. But if anyone's watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, that is where he fights the Green Goblin in the end. So you can go there and be like, that's where he goes, Godspeed, Spider-Man. And then you can be like, the thing. So I would say Roosevelt Island is like a best kept secret kind of thing.
This question also comes from a New Zealander.
Whoa, okay.
From Michaela. Which PJO character that you've met so far would you most want to swap wardrobes with, and why?
Ooh. It was Charon who had the really cool, expensive suit that everybody talked about, right? Yeah. I would feel like his suit may be the general because they said he also has an expensive looking suit, but because Charon, it was like a point of conversation that it was so nice, I would pick his suit. How about you?
Maybe just Grover. I think we dress pretty similar to begin with. I think that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
This next one's from Martha, who is Norwegian but lives in Hungary.
Whoa, okay.
Cool.
Martha asks, how much of your height is just hair?
I didn't bring a ruler, but it does, at least when I got measured to make sure that I was exactly 6 feet tall, it was pre this haircut. So I do know that I'm at least 6 feet tall without the hair. So that at least allows me to brag that I'm taller than my dad, which is all that matters.
This next question's from Emily. Can you get a survey of the audience asking real New Yorkers if they actually like pigeons?
Ooh. Okay. We'll do this with the applause-meter.
Okay.
We will do this officially with the applause-meter. If you like pigeons, make some noise. If you don't like pigeons, leave.
Hey!
We are a pro-pigeon podcast.
This next question is from Kayla. Kayla asks, what is the correct kind of taco? Crispy or soft or corn or flour tortilla?
Oh, this is very prime. I feel like we should both give the answers to this.
Yeah.
You give yours and then I'll tell the story that I have told. But
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good story. Yeah. It depends on the taco. Okay. I personally think it's like, if you're going back for like traditional tacos, corn tortillas are the absolute correct choice. You got plenty of different types of meat. You know, I grew up in Texas. I'm a very Tex-Mexy boy, so it's very flour-based. They're bigger, they're more stable, and if you're gonna put a lot of stuff in your taco, that extra structural strength of the flour really works a lot of wonders. So it really depends on what your goals are for the proper taco combinations.
yeah. But I would say like more, maybe like fajita flour makes more sense because it's bigger, like
absolutely.
you were saying.
Yeah.
But like as an actual like taco, you don't always need that.
Any sort of street taco style corn is the superior choice.
Yeah.
But
The one time I will give that a pass if you're getting a breakfast taco because eggs are so wet, flour can be better. But my answer, the taco truck that I talked about, Taqueria Ruby number 5, I would go there when I was an intern as an engineer. Good thing I'm using that degree. And I would go to this place all the time, and there's this very nice old Hispanic woman that would run the cash register for it, and always she would ask flour or corn. And I would, switch between the two, and then finally I just asked her, which I usually do at various, restaurants. I just kind of like defer to the people who know more than me. Like, I'm white, I don't know the answer. So
I just gave you an answer.
I asked her, I was just like, what do you prefer? And she just like kind of sinks a little bit and like does a slight like brow maneuver and then just goes, oh, mijo, only corn. I have never ordered a flour tortilla since, and I never will. But I will say, like, if you are looking for the best of both worlds, as if you are Hannah Montana, you can get, if you get one of those ones that's like mitad y mitad from HEB, where it's a half and half corn and flour, that can go a long way because you get the taste of corn, but the structural integrity of flour, and that's really solid. Trader Joe's even sells them too, so.
This question's from Lydia. Lydia says, which Percy Jackson character would survive the trials and tribulations of the Jersey Shore survival style?
Of a Jersey Shore survival style?
Of the Jersey Shore, survivor style.
Got it. So I did a Potterless live show back in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and I put Harry Potter characters through the gauntlet of New Jersey-based tasks. They were all New Jersey themed. So if I had to think who would be the best, did it say just a camper?
Any character.
Any character. Good. Okay. It's definitely not Percy because he always takes shots at New Jersey. And a key to surviving in New Jersey is understanding that New Jersey is great. I feel like Chiron would handle himself pretty well. He just feels like a guy who could get through New Jersey. Feels like he's got a level head. He's got his wits about him. He knows some history. I feel like Chiron would fare well in New Jersey. Do you have any picks of a person who would do well in New Jersey-based quests or challenges?
I think Clarice would do pretty solid.
Yeah,
I think she can.
I think she will, yeah. She greets people by wanting to fight them. That feels very true to New Jersey. Yeah. I think that could work out. Yeah.
This question comes from Sierra, and the subject line of the email was, New York live show featuring Stephen, quote, my views given in the show are my own.
Oh, yeah, quick. Yeah, say that real quick.
Thank you. Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name is Stephen Parra. The views, jokes, and bad puns expressed today are mine and mine alone. Don't reflect the opinions of any medical school or medical institution that exist. I did forget to do that. Thank you.
And the question was, if each godly parent had their own podcast, what would their topic be, and would it be a successful podcast?
This will be our final question. Thank you all so much for everyone who sent it in and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so the different gods and what podcast they would have. Aries would host like one of those like, I'm just asking the questions.
It's the real truth with Aries.
And it would be the worst. It would be horrible. But that might mean it would be very successful. There's a lot of terrible people out there. So it would be a bad podcast. That does not mean it would be unpopular, because that is not always the qualification for what makes a good podcast.
I feel like...
Or a successful podcast.
I feel like in that similar vein that Aphrodite would probably have like one of those bachelor, like after the rose, tell all podcasts. Similarly very successful.
Yeah. Hermes could have like a running podcast, either one about running or like one that you put on while running or something, and he would talk so fast that you wouldn't have to do like 2x, 3x, or whatever x speed. Poseidon would have one of those like fall asleep to me podcasts where there's like ocean waves in the background, and he just kind of like very calmly talks about different sea creatures or different bodies of
Seahorses
water.
made for life.
Right, yeah. He would have a very soothing podcast like that. I feel like Zeus would have one of those podcasts. I don't know what it would be about, but it would be one of those podcasts where it's like, and there's a reason why, you know, the logo for this one says The Newest Olympian with Mike Schubert, but the title just says The Newest Olympian. But he would have one of those podcasts where it's like the Godcast with, like
Zeus.
the Godcast with Zeus, and then the logo would say with Zeus, and then the artist name would be like with, like he would have his name on it everywhere.
Welcome to the Zeus cast with Zeus.
Right, it would be all about him. What he would do, he would be like one of those podcasts like You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes, where he just like has guests on, but all he does for the entirety of the podcast is like, how can I make this about me? How can I make this about me? How can I make this about me? And Zeus would just constantly be one of those like, oh, you mentioned this one time when I was in Colorado, like, and it would be horrible. It would be so bad.
And like they're all 3 hours long.
Yeah.
No editing.
Right, no Sherry Guo editing, so it would be really bad. Artemis would not know how to work a microphone. She would be like, technology, this is bad. Any other gods we've left out?
Hephaestus.
I feel like he would do like a scripted podcast, and it would have the best sound design, because he would have like all the great programs.
Oh, so he employed
and
Brandon
tech.
Grugel.
Yeah. He would have all the great like sound elements and stuff going, and then it would be high quality. He would be all up on it. Yeah. He'd be too drunk. He'd have one of those podcasts, because like there's all those podcasts. It's like, we do a thing, but we're drunk. Like Hades. Yeah, he would have. I mean, I feel like Hades would have.
Would he just have a true crime cast?
Oh, true crime. That'd be so gross. True crime podcasts are so bad.
It was a stormy day in the underworld.
But like maybe because
I
of
put
like
on my
underworld
underworld underwear.
Just all under-related things. Yeah. No, there'd be a lot of good ones. And then Athena, final podcast. Athena would have one of those like incredibly well-researched but still very entertaining history podcasts. Like Athena would basically do the like stuff you should know. Like anytime someone says like, I heard this thing on a podcast, like she'd have one of those where like conversationally everybody would get to like use these things she learned from her, and she'd be the best history podcast. And that has been Podcast Godly Roundup. And that is also the end of this show. Now, before we leave, just to know.
Thing.
So some people said they like came really far away in person to come to the show. Who came from super far away to come to the show? Not sorta. Like if you're like, I came from Europe or something. Like you in the back. Where'd you come from? Yes, Spain. Anybody come from farther than Spain for the show? You?
That's not farther than
If
Spain.
you said Brooklyn, I would have agreed.
Oh!
How about you? New Zealand. Oh my God. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
There we go.
Great. So, Steve and I are going to sign this book and leave it on the stage. That is your gift from coming from New Zealand to come to the show. But seriously, all of you, stream, in person, whatever, thank you so much for coming. This is wild. I truly, truly appreciate it. So give yourselves a round of applause for coming out. Round of applause to Steven for being a guest. Round of applause for Sherry for helping out doing the Q&A. Round of applause to everyone here at City Winery who helped out from sound to hospitality. Everybody's been super cool. It is so great to perform here. So shout out to everyone who behind the scenes made this a reality. So thank you all to you. With like COVID and all that stuff, I'm not gonna be able to do like meet and greet and all, but I'm so thankful to you all for coming. We're just gonna clean up the mess that we made here on the stage to try to be nice folks. But I very much appreciate you all coming out. You know, it's been a very fun time. I hope that if things go well, you know, this will just be the first Newest Olympian show of many in general, but also hopefully it's the first one in New York of many. Would love to come back here on a regular basis. But until we meet again, I'll see you later! Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. In case you haven't heard, we have lots of TNO live shows coming up. You can get tickets to all of those upcoming shows at thenewestolympian.com/live. If you're all caught up in the show and you just can't get enough, I'd recommend checking out our Patreon. At thenewestolympian.com/Patreon, you can get access to a bunch of bonus content. You'll also be able to watch that Hades the video game stream that Steve and Parra and I are doing / have done, depending on when you're listening to this. And you'll also get access to our Discord community, which is a lot of fun. If you're looking to find other communities that aren't linked to the Patreon, you can find us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we also have a subreddit, reddit.com/r/thenewesTolympian. And I also just launched a TikTok that is being run by Sherry. It's at Newest Olympian as well. I'd also love to give a big shout out to our producer level patrons: Lotta Bartova, Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Emma Cooey, Vicky Garcia, Ellie Hoskovchova, Veronica Bartova, Haley Hastings, Robin Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Tough Beifong, Mumu Productions, Olivia Y, Craig McRoberts, Taylor Payne, Giselle Salvador, Can't I See Weed Brain, Peter Johnson the Twin, Sabrina Balsiger, Boney Pony, Heather McMillan, Casey Williams, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Bridget Lowry, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Wise Girl, Ashton Gabrielson, Colby, Marco Redhouse, Falcon Joey James, Christopher William Boucher, Lux, Caden Max, Sam Reeby, Carly Allen, Riley Kitas, Mary Kelly, Audra McKenzie, Mrs. O'Leary, Aaron Wood, Tyler Hendricks, Molly Snyder, Rodith Kalna, Milo Kim, Fred Cabras, Harlan Christ, CC Reeds 23, Sandkopf, Julia Kendall, Emil Oscar Thomason, Noah Bundgaard, Liz Cardigan, Shatsabobs, Miss Zeus's Kid, Michelle Spurgeon, and Zachary Hamilton. If you want to help out the show non-monetarily, the best way to do so is via word of mouth. Whether you tell someone about the show who you think would like the show, someone who loves Percy Jackson, or someone who's been looking for an excuse to read Percy Jackson, or if you talk about us on social media, or if you leave us a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using, any of those help, and I appreciate anyone who has done or will do those in the future. But I'm just so glad you tuned into this episode of The Newest Olympian. I hope you tuned into our next episode where we'll be joined by our own editor, Sherry Guo, to cover chapter 14 of The Titan's Curse. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So we actually have a guest ASMR Mike segment. A friend of mine, Janae, asked if she could send some soothing audio as an ASMR Mike segment. Here's the email that accompanied it. Hey Mike, I recorded these while on a country walk along the river Evenlode in Oxfordshire, which apparently inspired the Shire in the Lord of the Rings series. I thought I'd send them in case you ever needed something for ASMR Mike. Well, here we are, and here is one of those recordings. There are multiple, so maybe future segments, but for now, here's the first edition. Thank you so much for listening.